And here we are, testing. Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to show you a cool way of turning your family snaps into something a little bit more fantastical using some simple photo editing and a little bit of digital painting. But fear not if you've never put stylus to tablets. I'm going to guide you through the whole process step by step, and I'm so confident you don't even need a drawing tablet to do this. Despite the fact that I have an oh so lovely Wacom right in front of me, I am going to be resisting the urge to use it and sticking to just my mouse throughout the entire process. So pull up a chair, find a snap that you want to zhuzh up a bit, and let's get started. Okay, today we are going to be using a program called GIMP, which you can get for free from their website. The link is in the description below. All you have to do is just go to the website, select the relevant version for your operating system, download it, install it, bish bash bosh, done. So when you first open up GIMP, you'll be greeted with a scene that looks very much like this. All we're going to do is go File, Open, and then we want to find the photo that we want to work on. Today we're going to be working on this one, which is the Pexels family. If this message comes up, just keep. Don't know exactly what that does, to be honest, but right. So here we have the Pexels family. It's a very lovely image, but I think we can make it just a little bit nicer. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so we have our photo ready to go, but how do we move around and pan and zoom and just navigate our photo? So there's a few basic shortcuts you can learn. If you want to zoom in, you can either click down here and then select one of the pre-selected zoom levels, or you can hold Ctrl and then use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out. If once we're zoomed in, if you just use the mouse wheel by itself, you can move up and down, hold Shift and scroll with the mouse wheel, you'll move left and right. Or alternatively, you can just hold the spacebar and then pan around freely without I'm just holding spacebar here. And of course you can also hold Shift and space and it rotates very slowly. Now if you get yourself all in a muddle and it's all rotated all around the place and you don't know where you are anymore, you can always go to View up here, Flip Rotate, Reset, Flip Rotate, and then likewise View, Zoom, and will fit image in window, and that will take you back out to pretty much where you started. So all those shortcuts are probably going to sound very confusing to start with, but believe me, once you get used to using them, they become very, very fluid. And don't worry, all of the keyboard shortcuts that I mentioned in this video will be listed in the description below. But for now, let's just get on with something a bit more fun, and let's make this photo look a bit more painterly. So we're going to zoom in a little bit using Control and the mouse scroll wheel, and then we're going to go to Filters, Artistic, Oilify. And then you'll see a load of settings come up. You can play around with those, see how you like. That's why I suggested zoom in so you can see the details a bit more clearly, and maybe just copy the settings that I've got here. They seem to work quite well. And then click OK. Now that's all well and good, but it's a little bit 2010, isn't it? It's cute, but we can do better. But to do that, we are going to need to add some layers to this bad boy. So what we are going to do, we're going to go down here. This is the photo that you originally added. So the text here will be different depending on the photo that you added into your image. Right click on that, and then go New Layer, and keep all of these settings default for now. Click OK. And now you can see we've added in a new layer here. Now what is a layer? So they're kind of like pieces of paper that are laid on top of each other, So we have, like I said, this is the original photo that we've got here, and this is a transparent layer. By default it will be transparent, which means it's kind of like a clear plastic sheet that we've put over the top of our photo. So if we grab a brush up here and then just start drawing and doodling, and angry, and so on. Well, you get the idea. Right, now, if I'd done that on the original photo, then I wouldn't be able to sort of, the colours underneath would have been lost, would have been destroyed. But because we've done this on a new layer, if we click this little eye image here, it goes away, because that basically makes the layer that we are painting onto invisible. So this allows us to add more features, more details, play around with the colours in a kind of a non-destructive way, because we're not actually changing the pixels underneath. We've still got the original photo underneath, we're just layering it on top another layer. And there's some other very cool things that layers can do, which we will come onto in a little bit. Very important thing that we're going to be using quite a lot of. But for now, let's just look a little bit more deeply into brushes. First off, we're going to undo all of this. Undo is the most important shortcut you'll ever learn in any program. If you don't already know, it is Ctrl and Z. And we will just undo all of these doodlings. Okay, so you saw me grab the paintbrush from up here. This is your basic paintbrush. Like I say, it is your basic tool. You've got all the settings for it here. Hardness is quite a useful one to crank up and down. Gives you either a very hard edge, you crank it down, you get a very soft, kind of fluffy edge. If you want to return any of these settings to their default values, click on this little reverse icon there. So for now we're going to keep it default. I think another one you might want to use is the airbrush. If you click and hold on this icon, you get this extra little menu here. If we go to airbrush, that gives us, as you might expect, more of an airbrushy kind of brush. Anyway, so if we want to change the colour of the brush, we can go up here, select any colour that we like. We can change the hue here, which is the red, green, blue, and then change all the value, saturation here. Click OK, and we have our new colour. Another way I actually prefer is if we go up here in this top right hand box, right up here, these tiny little icons here. If you go to the end one here, you can see and hover over it, it says FGBG color. That's foreground, background color. Click on that, and we get this nice little wheel. Again, we can change the hue right going around the outside of the wheel, and value and saturation is controlled in the middle of the wheel. I find that a little bit of a quicker and easier way of changing the colors. Hello, Future Carry here, just to interject and say if you've ended up with a colour palette that looks a bit like this, just go across and click on this button here, and that's the colour wheel that I'm using here. Each of these buttons shows you a different way of displaying colours basically. This is the one I'm using. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see if we can undo all of this doodling again. Okay, cool. Oh yes, I did forget to mention how you change your brush size. So there's a few ways you can do it. You can either select the size here, push, or you can hold Ctrl+Alt and mouse wheel up and down. It's a very slow process though. If you want to make a massive change to the size, I mean, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling here, so it's not always ideal. I find another way that works quite well is shift and right bracket to increase the size, and shift and left bracket to go down in size, like so. So what can we do with this nice new layer that we've just added to our document here? Well, we can do something quite interesting. If we take our I've got my just standard paintbrush, let's make it a little bit bigger using shift and right bracket, and we're just going to paint on top. Now remember I said it was like this layer is kind of like a transparent sheet of plastic over the top of the photograph, and that is, if we hides the layer here. You can see it just disappears. But at the moment it's just, you know, a solid block of colour. Now if we go, we've got our layer selected here, we want to go to where it says normal here and a little drop down box. And we get a load of options here. If we say, I don't know, select burn. Now that's done something quite weird. It looks kind of cool in a way, but it's not quite what we're looking for. But you can see each of these options basically changes the way that this layer interacts with the layers that are below it. So it's something that you kind of can just play around with and figure out what does what. But the one we're going to use today is HSL Color. Select that, and what it's doing is basically it's keeping the values, the lights and darks of the layer below, but just changing the hue. So the original hue of the dress is something like around here-ish, but we're changing it around to red because that's what we've painted on top. Now what that means is we can go through and we can change the colours of anything in this scene to whatever we like within reason, bearing in mind that we are still using the same values, the same lights and darks, so we are still a little bit limited. But for now, leave this with me for a while. I'm going to go through and I'm going to basically colorize the entire photograph in a way to make it look a little bit more fantasy-esque, give you some ideas for what you might be able to do in your photo. And yes, I am still using mouse at this point. This is when a pen and a stylus and tablet would be really useful for getting all of these edges and so on. But I will persevere. I will feel the pain of the mouse users in the room because it is possible. It's just a little bit fiddly, but trust me, you will get there. Just with a little bit of patience. Use the settings of your brush. You know, set up the hardest if you want to do a nice hard edge. Change the size to an appropriate size, so on. You will get there. Okay, I will see you on the other side of a quick time lapse. Okay, now that I've got it this far, just a couple of helpful hints. If I didn't mention it already, the eraser is just about here. That's good for undoing your mistakes, just getting nice clean lines. Also, if you're using the brush, you can hold Ctrl to select or pick a colour from the screen. You can see the colours bumping around there on the right hand side. One helpful hint though, if you go to the eyedropper tool here, and then you want to make sure that sample merged is not ticked, that will mean what that will does is basically it selects the colour that you are painting onto, the actual colour that you're painting onto the layer, and not taking into account this fancy layer mode that we got. So if we set it to normal, it's easy to understand. So basically it is taking this colour, not, you know, so if I sample here, it's taking that colour. If I sample here, it's taking this colour. It is not taking like for example this color as it appears with the layer mode on. Right, clear as mud. But anyway, I am happy enough with how it's going so far. They are looking, the family are looking a little bit separate from the rest of the image. They don't look like they're part of the scene, do they? They kind of look a bit weird. And I think one of the ways we're going to solve that is by putting some more foliage around them, putting some stuff into the foreground to tie it in with the background. It's often a good way of adding depth to an image. Right, and luckily what we can use, if we go to the brush tool and we go here, we click on this and we get this list of different shaped brushes, and these have quite a few little helpful, quick and easy kind of foliage. In fact, what we're going to do, we're going to add a new layer like we did before. We want to make sure it's set to normal mode though, and then it's just giving us bushy shapes on top. So I'm going to use these, and probably I'm going to flick through, have a play around with a few of these different brushes. Yeah, some nice leafy ones there. Try not to overuse these, or try and use them in different shapes, sizes and so on, because otherwise you start noticing the repeating pattern. But I'll go back into time-lapse mode now and see where we end up. Okay, yeah, I like how this is going already. So I'm just going to take you in and show you exactly what I'm doing here in a bit more detail, because it is important how you use these little kind of stampy brushes. They're great for quick and easy things like this. But you do, like I said, you have to be careful with how you use them. See what I'm doing here, where I'm layering up different variations of the same colour, slightly different hues and values, putting darker values on the bottom of it, because that's where the shadows would be, and again in the background, same thing. Putting some mid-tones into the middle, but nothing too. I'm trying to rotate a little bit to give it different angles, and then nearer the top I want some really light colours, kind of to indicate the light catching. There we go. Yeah, that's looking quite nice. Now what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to grab the airbrush. Again, this is something that you want to be careful with, don't want to overdo. We're going to go back to one of our standard just round brushes, make it a decent size, and we're going to go down to a very dark, kind of mimicking the ground colour but very, very dark version of it, very darkly saturated version of it. And then we're going to just put in a couple of clicks down the bottom of these bushes, just give them a little bit of shadow underneath. You don't really want it to be pure black, you just want it to be like a very dark desaturated version of the ground colour. Just gives the objects in the picture a little bit more presence. Oh, I guess I should neaten these up whilst I almost forgot about those. Oh, and I'll tell you what else we need. We need a little aerial perspective, which is just a fancy way of saying, of describing how when you look into the distance, you'll often find things look a little less saturated, kind of misty off in the distance, and adding a little bit of that in the background again normally just makes things look very... I'm going to turn down the opacity here of the brush, turn down the hardness quite a lot. We're just using a very desaturated blue kind of colour. Again, just a couple of little clicks here and there. Being very ginger, using it very carefully. Don't want to overdo that. Yeah, just those couple of little clicks. Okay, I'm really happy with how this is starting to look, but it is absolutely screaming for something that I probably use a bit too much, but I don't care because it looks freaking cool. I'm going to add some little glowing orbs. I think it kind of gives a really nice whimsical fantasy vibe to any picture, if you're going for a fantasy vibe kind of scene. So the way we're going to do this, we want to create two new layers that are going to be kind of treated completely separately to all the rest of the layers that we've already got. And to do that, we're going to use a layer group. So we right click down here, and we're going to go to new layer group. Now a layer group is basically just a folder. You can imagine, same as you've got folders on your computer with which you keep files in. You can move layers into a layer group, and they are kind of held separately to the other layers. So we're going to right click on this layer group, go to new layer, and just click OK. And now you can see this, it's slightly indented a bit. It's because this layer is inside the layer group. Now if you double click on the name there, you can rename it. I'm going to rename this to white, which this will make sense in a second, because what we are going to do on this layer, make sure you have selected that layer, going to make just a pure white color. Go to our airbrush tool. I want the hardness to be quite low. This is probably about right. Opacity, full opacity, and then we're just going to make a little circle with a little fuzzy edge, and we want to do a few of these around, all different sizes, some big ones in the foreground and then some smaller ones in the background. You want to have a few, but not too many. You want to have enough to kind of give the feeling that the entire scene is filled with these little weird glowing orbs, and who knows exactly what they are. Overlap? No, do we want that there? I don't know. Okay, I think that's enough. You don't want to go too crazy with it. So now what we're going to do, we are going to add another new layer, but this time we're going to select the mode. And by the way, you can change the mode of the layer when you create it from this list here. Same options as we had when we were choosing the HSL color from before. But this time we are going to select Dodge. Click OK. And we're going to rename that layer to Dodge, just so we can find it easily. Now we want the Dodge layer to be underneath the white layer. That's very important. And now what we're going to do is going to select a kind of a very vibrant, almost neon blue color, and then we're going to go around these orbs with a bit of a blue glow effect. But I don't like that. Undo. Be gentle with it. Don't go too crazy with it. And I think this blue effect is a bit too strong. So if you click on the layer, we've got an opacity bar here. That is the opacity, how transparent the layer is. So we can slide this down, and it makes the effect a little more subtle. I think that's more like what we're going for. Yeah, something like that. Then we just want to do the same thing for all of these glowing orbs. Just give them a nice little blue fuzzy glowy halo effect. Maybe make some of them a little bit like we've got a bit of lens flare going on. Cool. Right. Now there's only one more thing that I think I want to do, and that is, so if you've noticed because the original image had a very different kind of lighting scheme to what we've now kind of made it, with this very purpley, lilac-y kind of colour scheme we're going for. So the lighting on the parts that we haven't painted over, like basically the skin tones, is looking very orange. It's looking very out of place now, because they were originally surrounded, if you remember, they were originally surrounded by these kinds of very orangey bright colours. So we want to change the colour scheme of the original photo. So I'm going to select on the click on the original photo layer here. Then we are going to go to colours, and we are going to go to curves. Now what I want to do is basically make the whole colour space of that original photo a little bit more purple, a little bit more kind of lilac-y, I guess. What we want to do, so this channel we want to change. If we select red here, we can bump that up a bit. We might want to bump that up a bit, and then go to blue and also bump that up a bit. That should, in theory, actually I think we want to turn the red down a bit. Yeah, I'm liking, yeah, I prefer that. But click OK, and yeah, so that's kind of tones down that kind of bright oranginess a little bit. So yeah, as I said, I think I'm quite happy with how this is looking now. And remember, I just did this with a mouse and some free software. Anybody can do it. But what if you did have a tablet and stylus, and you're a bit more experienced with digital painting? What else could you do with this? Well, that's what I'm going to show you next. I'm going to take this image into my digital painting software of choice and use my lovely Wacom that I've been itching to use this entire time. I'm just going to show you where you could go from here if you wanted to go a little bit more advanced. And here we are, one finished painting. Now, if Past Carry wasn't an idiot and remembered to push record, then we'd have a nice time after this, but we don't, so here we are. And as you can see, I've just been able to add a little bit more detail here, been able to change the clothes a little bit more. There's a hell of a lot more I could do with this, I'm sure, and I could spend many an hour whittling away at this. But I think for now, this is a nice place to leave it for today. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I really hope it inspired you to have a go at this yourself. Like I said, it's something that anyone can do, so why not give it a go? But that's all I've got time for today, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I shall see you in the next video. Cheerio.